All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Family Engagement Community of Practice for May. It's nice to see you all here. We haven't met for a while, so this is going to be a fun meeting. Yes, please use the chat if you need to, or if you can come off mute, that's wonderful too. We're going to really try to have conversation today and discussion. Jacqueline, I see in the chat your video is not working. That's all right. No worries. I'm glad to see you here. Okay, we're going to kind of bump back and forth between the agenda and then I'll turn it off so we can look at each other too, which is always a nice thing to do. But we're going to get started here, just taking a look at our agenda for today. And I was just, before we started recording, I was just apologizing to Katie, who is a chair of this committee, that I kind of took over for her today. And it's really just because we haven't met for a long time and she's lost her co-chair. And Mallory has moved on to a different position with a different company. So we'll kind of get to that later in the agenda. But just a spoiler alert, we're probably looking for another co-chair, I would imagine, right, Katie? Yes, she says, yes, we are. Okay, so
Please.
please. So if you or someone you know is interested in moving into a little bit more of a leadership position, and working with Katie as a co-chair of this committee, I think you'll find that you get a lot of support from us at the Iowa After School Alliance. So, it's as much or not as little, but it's as much leadership as you would kind of like to take chairing one of these communities of practice. We're going to look just really quickly at our committee goals, and then I'm going to invite some conversation right off the bat about them. If anyone has any thoughts or would like to share, some changes or ideas. These are the committee goals from last year, and I haven't changed them at all. So we're looking at social and emotional support, how to best support families going through trauma. I believe that was something that's been on this committee probably since COVID or pre-COVID, and probably came out of that time period. So we're looking at how do we best support families going through trauma within this community of practice. We're communicating with parents in a more personal manner about the facts about a school time program is designed to be safe, interactive, meeting their needs as a student and as a family. And then we're looking at ideas for engaging families virtually and in person in a fun and interactive way. So what we're really trying to do with all of these communities of practice, and maybe you have been in another meeting recently, or maybe not. If not, that's fine. We're talking about this with all of them, but we have a couple of goals this year, which is to make these committees a little bit more action oriented. So, what are things that are actually coming out of the committees that are going to help grantees and help the network at large in Iowa do great things for their families and for their kids? So, we're looking at actual tangible things that can come out of these committees, action items, and things that are going to help everyone. And then, secondly, we're really looking at trying to expand these communities of practice to include folks that aren't even necessarily 21st century grantees. So, how are we going to help the network as a whole, which I think will in turn help grantees as well, because we'll be bringing on new community partners and new folks with new perspectives and new ideas and new best practices that we can share with everyone. So, with that, please, uh, please, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what you feel about these committee goals. If there are things that you feel need to drop off, need to change, are old, should be new. Maybe we should add a couple of things that I just talked about. What do you think?
Well, although I am technically one of the chairs, this is my first time actually being on this committee.
Yeah.
I was on another committee previously and switched over to this one. Um, I think these goals sound great. I'm hoping that we can kind of pull out specifics on those things so we have a little more understanding of what exactly we are trying to do as a group. If
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to come up with a list of ideas for people, or we're trying to just build more information around what family engagement should look like, just kind of weed out that a little more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody else has thoughts.
Is the part of the goal of this committee, I guess, to support 21st century organizations in their the events that they host locally? Because I think if we could get more of a after school alliance, Department of Education presence at some of like, I know there's like school districts and our organization does a couple of big events each year. So to have a presence from Iowa After School or Department of Ed would be really, really awesome for our families and for even our kids to kind of understand more about the role and the impact that it has on funding, even at a local level. I think would be really, really great. But I think that kind of fits in with communicating with parents in a more personal manner, being able to table do some of those things,
Yeah,
um, kind of help out.
absolutely. I think that fits in perfectly, Bailey. Yeah. And to your point too, Katie, I think, if we determine that these are the goals or we take them back as a committee and you guys look at them over the next month and maybe you suggest some changes or maybe you suggest some additions. And then every time we meet, we could be leaving with some action items that directly affect these goals, right? So when we go back and say, okay, well, what's happening within the next 60 days before we meet again? What are those things that are happening and how are they tied to each of these committee goals? That's I know I'm preaching to people that know how to do this stuff. I just think that, this is a really wonderful time, especially with new leadership at the Department of Ed and Joe, and he's so, willing to, make some great, uh, breathe some new fresh life into these things. Like this is an amazing time to be able to do things like that, Bailey. So thanks for bringing that up. What else? What are other people's thoughts about this? Maybe somebody that's been on the committee for a while, and if there are any folks that have been on the committee for a while, and your thoughts about what we're talking about.
I think we've been on the committee for quite a while. And being a smaller district, sometimes there isn't a lot of like big trauma things. Last year, we did have a family that lost their house in a fire. So that was traumatic for that student that attended. But otherwise, they're more subtle things just to help engage families. So when we do a family night or an activity together, our whole purpose or point is to try to bring them together so they can engage with their student and be reminded of things like, keep reading with your kids if you're not doing so, or check their backpack. Just something as simple as checking your kid's backpack on a regular basis. That supports the school and our, because it operates out of the school for us, that's a big deal to try to collaborate together. We've had community walks where we've invited businesses to allow employees to come down and engage because sometimes we're the only bridge between families and community if there's not another big event going on within the community. So it is one way to bring businesses and like our partners in
Mhm.
with our program. But to serve them in that social emotional aspect, it isn't, I don't know, it's just harder to say that we do that in a smaller community. I think there's so many things that happen. We just kind of all know each other. It's,
Yeah.
it's different maybe than in metro areas. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point, Sam. I mean, maybe this committee should look at some differentiation between what's going to work well for more rural and small communities and what works a little bit better in a more urban and large community, with a big program with tons of different families and
Yeah.
or maybe potentially needs translation services or that kind of stuff. Like
Right.
we could be looking at some nuance in our if we're offering a toolkit for programs.
Right. And just to add to that a little bit, one of the things that, like when we do something that engages businesses, partners with us. It's the same businesses that get tapped all the time by other things in our small town. So we don't have big corporations to sponsor our program. So the sustainability for us does look different.
Mhm.
Not that it's any easier for a metro school or a metro program than it is for ours, but we just don't have large sponsors. We really are kind of hitting a mom and pops businesses when we
Mhm.
go out and solicit. So this family engagement is one way to try to pull them in at times.
Mhm. Yeah. I know we had a couple of folks join, and so just so that you know what we're doing right now, we're starting at the very beginning and kind of looking at the committee goals and sharing our thoughts and ideas about whether or not they still work for us or if there needs to be any tweaks or changes or additions. And the other thing is we will, give this some thought too. Some people need to think about it for a while, and that's okay. Um, we can add that as an action item and in the next month or so, invite folks to provide via email to Katie and myself just their ideas on this stuff. So, anybody else have any thoughts or feedback on the committee goals? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to, oh yeah, we were supposed to do welcome and introductions. Hi, everyone. You know what? Let's do it. Why not? I'm gonna stop the share and we're just gonna really quick. I want you to say your name, your role, your organization, and not one word that describes your current family engagement focus. So your name, your role, your organization, and one word to describe your current family engagement focus. And I'm going to start. I'm Heidi Brown. I'm the director of the Iowa After School Alliance. The one word that describes my focus right now is research. And I'm going to kick it over to Bailey.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Bailey Moore. I'm the Director of Operations for Boys and Girls Clubs of the Cedar Valley here in Waterloo, Iowa. I think for my family engagement word, we've got a couple of events coming up, so I think mine is going to be fun is what we're looking for.
That's a good one. Who do you want to send it to?
I'll send it over to Katie.
You stole my word, so I'm a little disappointed in that. Katie Boatwright. I am the director of before and after school programming for Fairfield Community School District. I'm currently sitting on the patio in Tennessee at my sister-in-law's house. She just had surgery, so I'm helping out for the week. But my word, I was going to say fun because we love to have fun, but I also think that our word is inclusion this year. We've been trying really hard to make sure that everyone in our program feels included.
I love it.
So
Who's next, Katie?
I'm going to send it to, let's go with Karen.
Okay. Oh, hey, Karen, you're muted.
Oh, there we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
Hi, I'm Karen Roberts. I am the on-site supervisor for Lamoni Community School District's after-school program. We are gearing up to start next week with our summer academy. And I think the one word that we're focusing on is collaboration. So we're collaborating with the library and with AmeriCorps and Youth Launch, and just trying to make the program as fun as possible and let the kids have a good time this summer.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Who'd you like? How about we go with Amy?
There we go.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy. I work for DMPS. I run After School Metro Kids program, and I also coordinate 21st Century at Brubaker Elementary. One of the words I would say is engaging. My goal on our family nights is always to try and get as many families at and kids as we can to participate and have fun together.
Thanks, Amy. That's
Yeah.
great. How about Sam?
I'm Sam Gravy, the elementary principal here in Audubon, and I kind of co-direct with our director Betsy Boyer. She does all the hard work. I just sit in on the meetings for her sometimes. Anyway, our one word I think is service. And one of the things that we want to help our kids understand is that we get a lot of sponsors from around our town, so we want to give back, and so we do some community service. So that's one thing we're working on this year.
Wonderful. How about Joseph?
Hey,
Boys and Girls
everybody.
Club Joseph.
Oh, this will be fun. Hi, everyone. I'm Joseph Teen. I'm a unit director here at our E.T. Meredith Junior Club, part of the Boys and Girls of the Central Iowa. I just got kind of thrown onto this committee as we went through a restructure in our organization. So Jack is no longer at a 21st century site, but he's still with the clubs. I guess our word is opportunity, just trying to find all those different opportunities to engage with the families, both, out in the community and, here at club with the events that we do.
Right on. Jacqueline? I know your camera's not working, but I don't know if you're. Oh. Oh, shoot. Jacqueline, if you're talking, we can't hear you, darn it. Well, you could throw it in the chat maybe if you can. How about Joe Collins?
hey, everybody. Joe Collins with the Iowa Department of Education. I would say my word would maybe be either cheerleader or hype man, maybe 2 words. But yeah, I put in the chat box, I'm happy to join for your events, or even if I can't make it in person, I'll throw something up on social media or try to kind of get the word out to my different networks. But yeah, that's something that I always appreciate doing, and just trying to support you in any way I can. And I just love getting out of the office and kind of traveling and seeing everybody. So shoot me an email, throw me an invite, whatever, and just let me know what I can do to help support.
Wonderful, awesome. And I guess we'll wrap it up with Adriana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Slaughter. I'm a program manager with Iowa After School Alliance. And I would say, again, I'm going to do 2 words. Renewed energy is what I would go with. We're seeing just some fun things coming out of our Iowa Family Engagement Initiative, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm just seeing some renewed energy around the family engagement piece.
Thanks. Thanks everybody for doing that. I appreciate it. It's always nice to kind of reintroduce ourselves. So we actually already kind of looked at this purpose of community of practice. We talked about making it a little bit more action oriented and making it work for everyone, and really providing some actual tangible and good benefit for the members and for the Iowa After School network as a whole. And for those that joined a little bit late, we talked about wanting to do 2 things this year with all of our committees, which are really breathe some fresh life into them and really make them work for us, so that people are really seeing benefit come out of it, and things that they can use in their programs to serve families and kids in Iowa, and also to expand our reach a little bit by opening up these communities of practice to folks outside of the 21st Century Community Learning Centers network, and bring in people from different networks and different places, to provide some new perspective, and maybe even make some connections for your own program with new community partners and resources that you might not have otherwise known about. So that's the goal for this year for Iowa After School Alliance, at least. And then we'll, do our best to support this community in your own goals for the family engagement. Moving on, I want to just kind of share a little bit about what we've been working on in the last 6 months. Adriana and I at the Alliance, we have been working on a family engagement initiative pilot, And that was something that we received funding for this year to do, which included some research that I know that probably everyone on this call, or at least someone in your organization, helped me out with. And that started with a family engagement survey for the network. I'm going to share with you guys kind of the raw data from that survey because it's interesting and it doesn't look very pretty yet. There's going to be a really nice brief with some cool graphics in it and stuff like that that you can even use to share with your, if you wanted to share it with your school board, with your administration. I mean, you could share it with the community at large, but I just want to take you through a little bit of the data that you guys provided for us on this. So we looked at some different uh, aspects of family engagement practices and family engagement and statewide. So it wasn't just 21st century, but all of the 21st century programs did respond and provided data. So we looked at like what's the most common practices around family engagement? And, probably not a surprise to anyone, but it was family night events. So, family night events, parent teacher communication. It says parent teacher communication. We, kind of define teacher as that person that's, working with students on a daily basis. So, in an after school program, we might not call, depending on your program, we might not call them teachers, but for the, purposes of this data collection, we did. So, regular parent teacher communication. Family workshops came in at around a third of the programs are offering those things, and same around a third are doing take-home activities or books, and then a small slice are doing some parenting classes. What we did find that I think, this committee could probably take a look at if you feel like it's, something that you're interested in supporting programs with. Only about 15% of folks responding were using a research-based curriculum for family engagement. And so, that's something that we could look at providing some better or, just not necessarily better, but some research-based product for folks that are doing family engagement um, that they could, maybe even collect some data and be able to, show again, to be able to show their stakeholders, maybe even use that data to, who knows, potentially get some funding, that kind of thing. We looked at barriers to family engagement, and I'm sure, as you can imagine, scheduling conflicts was right at the top. Limited financial resources. Now, remember, this was not just 21st century programs that were responding to this. So while 21st century programs have, financial funding available for family engagement, not every program does. Transportation issues we found was a big problem. And culture and language differences was a problem, or not a problem, but a barrier. And then lack of staff, which I think we're finding lack of staff is, of course, still an issue, but it is definitely improving in the last couple of years post-COVID. So that's good to see. And then we also looked at the family perspective, and I mean they aligned pretty closely with what programs said, which are scheduling conflicts. Now, to me, that means that we need to be more creative about when we're offering these engagement programs. The current kind of scheduling of, let's just say, for example, parent-teacher conferences. We're not going to pick on after-school programs, not going to pick on school districts or anything like that, but kind of the way that it's always been done is not necessarily working for families anymore. And so I think part of this group can be to provide some creative ideas for what exactly is a family engagement opportunity, what does that look like, and when can it happen? And again, I'm going to share this with you guys in its entirety, but I just wanted to show you kind of the raw data. Methods of collecting feedback, we were looking at formal surveys, informal communications, and other specified methods, but there's definitely room for improvement in feedback collection. we saw about 28% of programs collecting quarterly feedback, 27% doing annual, and about 11% who are not seeking feedback at all. Of course, we all know that continuous improvement should have a feedback loop. So perhaps this is something that this community of practice would want to work on. Maybe doing some survey templates, which I know we've done in the past, but maybe they need to be revamped and looked at again. And that's a pretty simple product that could be created and shared, and then folks don't have to reinvent the wheel or think, gosh, I don't have time to make a survey or something like that. But we have it available for them to use. An idea? Maybe we create it virtually. Maybe we make a QR code. I don't know. And then we looked at demographics and program characteristics. And we just make some recommendations, which are still in progress too. But like I said, I'll share those things with you. I went through that stuff really fast, but I really wanted to share it with you guys. And also I wanted to thank you for taking that survey for me. And I don't know if we've got any folks on here who did the focus groups. Oh yeah, Katie. Right, that's right. Your team did a focus group for us, which was really, really helpful. Thank you again for that. Any thoughts on that data? I know, like I said, we went through it really fast. I'd love to hear just your initial kind of, do you go, yeah, that's not surprising. That's what I thought it was going to be. Or, oh, wow, that kind of stuck out for me. I would love to hear if you have any initial thoughts off the top of your head.
I think for me, the transportation piece, I work at a teen site, so the kids can, sign themselves out, parents don't have to come, what have you. But knowing that our family engagement has not been great in the past, I'm thinking of now, where can I go to meet these families? Because we serve East High, and that's a pretty big area here in Des Moines. So trying to find different buildings and like different pockets of neighborhoods to get families to come out and like a park or something and do something there. So that was just kind of an initial thought for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just curious about the research-based models you referenced. That kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what we're finding is there are opportunities for research-based curriculum to be used, but and Adriana, go ahead and jump in here too if you have any thoughts, but programs are, program staff, and you guys are on the ground too, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're really busy. And to be out there searching for some curriculum for a family engagement that really, we're only asking for 4 times a year, although I know some programs do a lot more than that. Like maybe they don't have time to go out and look for it, or, maybe there's something that's available, but it costs money and they don't have money for it, that kind of thing. I don't know. What do you guys think? For those of you that are working directly with kids every day.
I mean, I think I agree with you, Heidi, in terms of there is a lot of other things that our on-site staff are trying to figure out in their daily
Mm-hmm.
chaos that it does make sense from a family engagement group or IAA perspective to develop some of those resources that are research based to pass along to
Mm-hmm.
our on the site peeps, and so they can know that it's, and we can provide, where they're from too, so they can go explore that if they do end up with the time or do want to engage more with that specific model or whatnot. But I think having that initial,
Mm-hmm.
these are already vetted by, us, moving into, having the multiple options available, on our website or through
Mm-hmm.
resources. I think that would be helpful. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, Heidi, if you remember when we did our focus group, one of my staff actually made the comment that he doesn't ever get to interact with the parents because he's usually running a group and the kids just get called down when it's time for them to leave.
Mm.
And he mentioned that again at our end of the year meeting when we met, and I asked what are things that we can improve on for next year. And he said he would really like to have more guidance on dealing with parents and the opportunity to talk to parents more. And I'm so that's like going to be one of my big focuses for next year, trying to figure out how we can get more staff to have that opportunity to interact than just the site supervisor who is, releasing the kids. So
Yeah.
having a
Yeah.
little more guidance on that would be great for them to be able to look up themselves and be like, what's the best practice on how to interact with the parents, because they may not do it very often.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And making it something that folks are motivated to want to do. I mean, even if it's like, I mean, this might not be, exactly what you're talking about, but I remember when I was in Des Moines and we really wanted folks to get to know families and stuff. And so it was almost like I tried to incentivize, like, hey, I want you to make 5 connections a week or whatever. And then there was, whoever had the most or whatever, that we made it almost kind of like a game, it needed to be positive. So you had to, you had your list of kids that you were going to make your connection with that parent at some point during the month, right? And whether it was a phone call after hours or a text or a note that said, hey, come and see me next time you can, and I want to show you something your kid did, or whatever it was, just to kind of spark that initial relationship. Um, and then when they were recognized in some way for being outstanding at making that connection with families. Just one little thing. Okay, let's move on here. So I have on here that I wanted you guys to share your updates from your 2024-2025 year. I think that I certainly would, and I'm sure Joe would like to hear what you did at your last family engagement event. Let's just take 5 minutes or 6 minutes or so, come off mute, and just share briefly what you did at your last family engagement event and whether or not it was a success, or maybe you only had 3 parents show up, and so you're not going to do that again next time. But I'll just go ahead and be quiet, and somebody can pop in, and then if we're having trouble kind of coming off mute, then I can call on people. But who would like to share what happened at your last family engagement event? Bailey, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so the last family engagement event that we hosted would have been back in February, our Youth of the Year event. So annually we host an event, mostly focused on our teen members. So our top teen in our Boys and Girls Club, they go and they compete at a state level that follows that. So we try to get as many families, we get all of our club sites together, all 3 buildings, all come together for one event. Some of our young people give speeches. We give out Youth of the Month awards. So really just making sure that it's a lot of recognition for our young people, the success that they've had, all the great things that have been going on. We do struggle to get families at those events. We work kind of a factory town, so there's a lot of different shift work that goes on. So it's hard to get all of our parents to attend those events. The numbers have been improving. We've done quite a bit more front end work when it comes to marketing and making sure that we've got flyers and things to just constantly hand out and talk to families about for those events. So things are going a lot better. The event that we're really looking forward to, June the 20th, we're hosting Summer Kickoff Carnival. So we'll be out in the park. We'll have free food, some carnival style games. We'll have some different organizations tabling out in the park. So really try to make it resource fair styled, ways to get kids signed up for our summer program, really just making sure that we are in the community as much as possible, and giving our families every opportunity to find a way to engage with us, wherever that might be.
Very good. Thanks, Bailey. Thanks for sharing. All right, who'd like to go next?
Hi, this is Jacqueline. I think I got my mute fixed.
Yay! Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi. Our last family event, we had a lot of fun. We did a masked singer, but we did masked readers. We had like 6 of our staff members, and we all wore a mask, and we all wore a graduation gown, and they videoed us reading a book. We each picked our own book, and they videoed us reading our own book, and then they changed our voices.
Oh my God.
And then they played them for all of the kids in the classrooms, and the kids had to guess who the reader was. And at the family event, they unveiled all of us readers. And the only thing is, if anyone does that, I would say wear gloves, because they were going around looking at everyone's hands to check out the hands. But we had about 75% turnout of our families. Granted, we're a very small community, so that helps. And I think another thing that helped was we did feed everybody. We did a meal for everybody, and that's a big help too, to get kids. But they loved it. They had a blast, and they were surprised with some of the readers we had.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really fun. Thanks, Jacqueline. All right, who'd like to go next? I think people are hopefully getting ideas too. Oh, Amy, are you talking?
I can go.
Go ahead.
So my last family night was, it was in the evening, and it was book bingo. Excuse me. So some of the parents were confused by what book bingo is, but basically it's bingo and you win books. So we also have had stuffed animals for the kids too, because they don't always see books as fun prizes. So we provided pizza and drinks. And then we also had it right after pickup, which seems to we close at 5:30, and we usually go from 5:30 until 7, which helps us with our attendance. The last one wasn't bad attendance. Could be better. So I'm working on that. But obviously there's barriers. So, I'm not in control of all of those. But my goal is always to have as many families attend as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. That sounds fun.
I can go. So we usually do an assortment of events throughout the year, but our favorite one that everyone loves is our end of the year party. And there's no programming of any kind for the parents. It's just like fun time. So we do fun activities with the kids. They get out early on Fridays. So from 2:30 to 4:30, it's just the kids doing activities. And then we invite the families to come to join us for dinner. And it's just dinner and hanging out, and really there's like not a lot of planning involved, but it's everyone's favorite event because they just get to come and hang out and eat with their parents at school. We have about 135 kids on our roster for programming, and we had 103 kids come on our last day, which was like a lot. And almost all of them stayed for dinner and had almost their whole family. We only had 1 pizza left over out of 40 pizzas that I bought. And it's a great time actually, because we involve a bunch of our community partners. Jefferson County Conservation, and Jefferson County is the county I live in, and they always do field trips for us throughout the year. And then so Austin, who is the naturalist there, he comes for that day and does some activities with the kids. And then Iowa State Extension, who we partner with throughout the year, they also come. In our public library, the children's librarian comes and does reading. So it's just a nice time for the parents to see all of our partners as well. So we had a really good turnout and the kids loved it.
Sounds really fun.
Also a note that I wish you guys would send me some pictures of these. These would be awesome for me to highlight. I might be bothering you for pictures.
Yeah, I hope you're taking pictures. Hey Megan, hi. We're just talking about kind of the last family event that you did and what it was like. And if you want to share, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, sorry to be late. I had students in my room and I couldn't quite get them to go where they needed to be just yet. I'm Megan. I'm with the Council Bluffs Community Schools. For family engagement this year, we tried something that we haven't tried in the 5 years that I've been involved, and we did open houses. So we took a normal club night and we invited families in so that they could come in and interact with their kids and see what their kids are doing while they're at our programs after school. So we reached out to our community partners and our club leaders, and we gave them a heads up, to have a really cool activity that the parents can help with. And it went really well with our schools. So there's 10 elementary schools that we did this with, and it was pretty successful as far as getting the parents to come in to see.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's great. And I think Megan, you and Katie both, you just made a perfect point, which is that it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be that you rent out Adventureland or something. Like it can be as simple as having pizzas and an open house and letting people come in and see what you guys do and get to know the staff a little bit, and letting the kids show them around, letting the kids show their parents around. What kid doesn't want to, show their parent what they've been doing and the books they've been reading and the special little place they like to, play or whatever. That's very cool. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, so we have one coming up shortly here with our summer program, and we're going to do a meet and greet. And it's a really good time for our director to talk to parents about expectations for summer program as the kids are coming in, and just to review and meet them. And most of the kids, or many of them, have already been in our after school program, but our numbers go up in the summer. As a matter of fact, when we opened up our summer registration in 12 hours, it was full. We hit our capacity because this is the year our grant goes down to 75% of its funding. And so we just have more limited staff. So we had to put a cap on it, and there is a waiting list. So it's a good thing, but it's also a tough thing because we sure like to get as many in as we can. And our launch director is really doing a great job of trying to find alternative ways of keeping kids involved. So it typically runs 5 days a week, but to get more kids, she asked parents to volunteer and just come 4 days a week, and they all did it. Everybody said, "Yep, we'll do 4 days a week so more kids can get in." So that's what that meet and greet will help us to get that clarified. So, yep.
Sam, that's a story that we would love to tell at the After School Alliance too, because, we all go, oh, wow, folks went 4 days a week, but you know what? They shouldn't have had to. We
Right.
should be able to,
Right.
we should be able to sustain, and
Right.
that's the kind of story we want to be able to tell, especially at like the Day on the Hill when we talk to legislators. This feel-good story, actually, we're talking about kids having to give up a day of programming.
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
not, yeah, thank you.
Right. And it's not what we wanted for sure, but
But the
fact
community
that our
came
parents
together, that's
rallied to
amazing.
say, yeah, we'll do it
Yeah.
because no one gets charged right now. So
Right.
eventually that could happen that we have to start charging some families, but right now it's open to all the kids, and of course we prioritize. But yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right. Anybody I missed? Anybody else want to share? Okay, well, I think we are reaching the end of our agenda today, but I just wanted to, oops, I think I shared the wrong screen. Hang on just a second. And this is the one I want. Are you guys seeing the work plan? Nope.
Oh,
Okay.
no, now we can.
Oh,
We saw it
shoot.
secondly. No worries.
And third time's the charm. There we go. How about that?
Yes.
Okay, so like we talked about, trying to make these a little bit more action oriented. So want to make sure that we have at least something happening after every one of these committee events. And so for today, unless I hear otherwise from the committee right now that we want to do something else, then over the next month, I would love for each committee member to provide a little bit of feedback on the committee goals. So you'll get a summary email from us today, and then I'm not exactly sure, Adriana and I will either send you a link to a Google Doc where you can jump on and provide a quick bit of feedback on those goals, or a different opportunity, but it'll most likely be a Google Doc that Katie and I and Adriana and then whomever the co-chair is will have access to. And we're going to want to hear from you if yes, you're good on that, or you want to tweak it, or you want to see something else. And we'll hope to hear from every member on that. So anything else you guys want me to add, or you think that's probably enough for the first thing, for the first activity? We only meet in these communities to practice 6 times a year, and sometimes it's even less if we have to postpone or miss one. And so it's important that we move on the things that we're doing so that we can help each other out and help you guys out. Make sure that you're getting the benefits of these. So
I just
I would
need to
like
let you know that I am
can-
transitioning from on-site supervisor to more of a consulting type,
okay.
maybe away from the scene type. So I don't know if I will be on the July meeting or not. We haven't really nailed down what my role is going to look like.
Okay.
But I am stepping away from the on-site supervisor part. And I'm hoping that with doing that and having a school personnel step in, that the elementary teachers will buy into it more. That's been my frustration for 10 years, is that I feel
Sure.
like I'm all alone. So anyway, but I have enjoyed my time. I may be back on here. They may be the ones sending me to the meetings and things.
Well, if it's not
Right.
you, we'll certainly miss you or your face.
Okay.
But if it is you, then we'll be happy to see you.
Yes. Yes.
But I hope it works out the way that you want it to and that you
Yeah.
intend
Yeah.
it to. Good.
Okay,
Thanks for
thank you.
sharing, Karen. Thank you. Okay, last thing, I am putting the link for our Thrive Together registration in the chat. If you're not registered for that, next opportunity, it's going to be all about family engagement and our family engagement initiative at the Iowa After School Alliance, and I would love for everyone to be there. And it's not on our agenda, but if you have not registered for Impact After School yet, and registered your staff for that, go for it. Get in there and get registered, and make sure you give us your t-shirt size, because we're really, really hoping that we're going to be able to do a cool t-shirt for everybody this year, which would be the first time we've ever been able to do that. And I'm excited. I really hope we can. So that's going to be September as usual. And so get in there and register. And otherwise, have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. See you soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Heidi. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, Heidi.
Yeah.